This week, I'm lacing up my skates and hitting the ice in EA Sports NHL 22.
Because change is not about the next trend. It is about the next generation.
Like I said, I'm back on the ice for EA Sports NHL 22, and we're checking out everything new with this game and all the advancements they made from last year's version. And albeit, we've talked about this on the show before, sports games have a tendency to be the same year in and year out with just minor changes. And I feel like NHL's kind of been coasting for the last few years on that kind of mantra where they're marketing these big changes, and every version we get of the game is just slightly different from the one before, albeit even some of them have more problems than the versions before. But I had my fingers crossed for NHL 22, hoping to see some of these new features, and now that we're on to the next gen console, hoping to see some advancements that maybe we didn't have in last year's game. The first thing I noticed jumping in on my Xbox Series X was the graphics. This game overall looks amazing. They did such a good job. Visually, you can just notice that step up on the next gen consoles. I mean, even on the older gen console, on my original Xbox One, I did play this, and I did notice the graphics even still were just a little bit better than last year's game overall. But on the next gen, I noticed the menu system and everything was just really crisp and quick. And last year, we did have a lot of problems with long loading screens and just really jumbled tile system menus. We've simplified it this year, and we have a tab system where the menus are laid out a lot more clearly, and you can kind of get around a lot faster. I thought that was a big improvement. It was one of my major complaints from last year's game. As for the various game modes in NHL 22, we're getting a lot of the same offerings as last year's game. We're seeing a lot of the outdoor ice rink matches, the 1v1v1s, the 3v3s. That arcade style is still something that's very popular, especially to the casual NHL players. You can just jump into those modes, jump out. You can be as competitive as you want to be without really, investing that much time, which is nice. Those game modes have always been popular since they've released them. It's nice to see them make it into this year's game. And I guess let's get to the EA Sports prize jewel in NHL, Hockey Ultimate Team. Yes, this game mode is still here. It's still probably the main focal point for EA Sports when it comes to what they look at first at changing in this game, just like Madden Ultimate Team and FIFA. Well, I don't know. This game mode I'm split 50-50 on. I do enjoy it sometimes, and other times I can't stand it. And I think the community is probably split that very similar way in the sense that, Hockey Ultimate Team overall is a great idea. Being able to collect card packs and unlock different players and line combinations and customize your whole team. But, that level of, involvement is fantastic. It's great to be able to have that. But this game mode is littered with microtransactions. It's literally pay to win. As long as you want to spend money, you can have an amazing team here. And that really hinders the online elements of this game mode. There's a lot of offline modes you can play within Hockey Ultimate Team to earn rewards and different card packs and things, which is great. But realistically, what you want to do is build a team and compete online, and a lot of people find that you jump into these modes and you're online playing, and if someone spent all this money on decks and different packs to be able to get these ultimate players that you're just not quite there yet with, it's unfortunate. It makes this game mode hindered completely in my mind. It's a game mode I actually avoid for the most part because I do enjoy playing the other modes so much that I don't want to deal with all the microtransactions and everything that kind of gets thrown in your face with Hockey Ultimate Team. But it is a game mode that's there, and I know it's popular. They have made some changes this year overall, like the menu system. Like I said, and most of the modes have changed. It has changed in this one as well, but I think for the better. Hockey Ultimate Team is here to stay, regardless if I wanted to or not. X Factors are the big thing this year. This is kind of what they, the big marketing tag that they put with NHL 22 is that the star players in the league get these X Factor abilities. And these abilities will be able to highlight certain areas of their play and just kind of give them that upper edge to make them that elite player that, that we know them to be in real life in the NHL. And they've kind of done this in a way that I do like. It kind of gives these certain players a little more dynamic feel to them as far as, you're using a Connor McDavid, or you're using a Sidney Crosby or an Austin Matthews compared to, another top line guy that might not have one of these X factors. But overall, I mean, as nice as they are, and they do a good job explaining what these X factors abilities do and how they kind of are highlighted and how you activate them as a player. I thought they did a really good job of laying out, everything to do with these X factors, although I just don't really see them being that big of a factor. It's nice to have them in these game modes, especially in EA Sports Hockey League, where you can kind of customize your players. And they've done a good job in that mode, being able to customize just a little bit more than you could last year. You can really lay out your player builds and really kind of tailor it to your play style. Last year, you were kind of stuck with certain player types, and that was it. You couldn't really change their stats or anything like that. So I thought that was nice this year to kind of give us a little more customization back into the EA Sports Hockey League, because that is the game mode I tend to play the most next to franchise. I do like to just jump in and play some versus online as well. All those game modes are still there, and they do a pretty good job at just kind of laying them all out from the main menu and making them very easily accessible to get at. Overall, I've enjoyed my time with NHL 22. There's lots of new features here. Like I said, the X Factor skaters, as much as I may not feel like they're factors, it is a new part of the game that does make it a little more dynamic when you're selecting players, doing player builds in EA Sports Hockey League. So I can't knock them there. I do like the innovation. The graphics overall are amazing. I think things look so good in this one. But the online play, I've got to say, is probably going to be one of my biggest cons, because we're still running into glitch goals. We're still running into people that exploit this game in a way that just doesn't feel so natural and authentic to the NHL play style. But honestly, EA's tried their best, and every year they come out and they do what they can to make things more difficult for these players that just like to exploit this game and make it, not as fun, not as enjoyable for new players and, players that play this game all the time and just want to have a good time. But again, they've tried their best. Like I said, the passing has become much more difficult this year. Some people aren't going to like that. I think it is a good thing overall. It stops those cross crease passes from happening every time. They're not so automatic. You have to be able to make these passes, make them crisp and clean. So it's going to take, these people that like to make those games or make those goals and exploit it. It's going to be a little bit harder now that they have to master this new passing. But overall, I think it actually gives us more authentic feel, and I really do enjoy it. But if I've got to score this one, because I could probably talk about hockey forever, if I've got to score this one out of 10, I've had a really good time with NHL 22. I think EA's done just enough this year to give us that step up and a better version of what, I think a lot of people were considering last year's game a disappointment. If I've got to score this one, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed my time with this. A step up from last year's game, NHL 22 hits you with great graphical upgrades and just enough tweaks to keep you entertained in the various game modes. Hockey Ultimate Team is still the focus here, but there are definitely plenty of options for all levels of players.